Interesting.
Now we're good.
Okay. Everyone, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Councilmember Daniele?
Present.
Councilmember Isfan?
Present.
Supervisor Albro?
Here.
Councilmember Foreman?
Here.
Councilmember Rye?
Here.
Okay, we got a couple items for special consideration. Before we adopt the agenda, we need to add items for special consideration. There are several. Let me read them out. One would be a resolution to authorize solicitation of bids for demolition of unsafe building on Van Lake Road. Resolution to accept resignation of a police assistant. Discussion and resolution to accept the resignation of the Justice Court Clerk. Discussion, I'm going too fast. Discussion and resolution to accept resignation of Greg Tatino, my confidential secretary, and appoint him as a legislative aide. Discussion and resolution to appoint Michael Natrella to the position of confidential secretary to myself, and discussion and resolution to accept the resignation of a police officer from the Town of Fishkill Police Department. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Foreman, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any minutes?
No, I have taxes instead.
Okay, privilege of the floor for general town items. Anybody has anything to speak about the town? This is the time to do it. Okay. We got any new employees here today? Michael, why don't you just get up and say who you are and what your interest in the town of Fishkill is?
My name is Michael Natrella. I am a recent graduate from Binghamton University. I am a lifelong resident of Fishkill and originally East Fishkill. I've been involved in community since I was a student at John Jay. And after finishing my degree in legislation and undergrad degree with a specialty in law, I decided to pursue a career in public service, which is what brought me to this position. And I am hoping throughout my time, if confirmed, I can prove myself to both you and the residents of this town, county, and state. That is all that I have to say as of this moment. So if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Anybody?
So you're taking Greg's position. That's the position
Yes.
you'll be taking.
Binghamton Bearcats, go.
What was
Yes.
that?
Binghamton Bearcats.
Okay, your kid is in there, right? He's got as a child as an alumni. Anybody over here with a question?
No, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is that it?
Good luck. Next up, liaison reports. Well, I have no comments as of now.
None?
None?
Okay.
Next up is liaison report. We'll start with Louise.
Let's see. Okay. For the rec center, I got a report from Mary Ann. On September 14th, the seniors enjoyed a concert in the park with homemade pizza, and they sang along to some oldies music. Today, they had the second showing of the new Elvis movie on our inflatable movie screen, which was inside the rec center, and they enjoyed chicken parm and salad for lunch. On the 27th, they will be going to the Wine Creek Casino, which is already sold out. On October 6th, they will have a harvest festival where line dancing will be taught along with a luncheon. On October 18th, they will be headed to the Villaroma and the Catskills to see Michael Bublé tribute along with a full luncheon. The senior holiday party has been announced, and that date is December 15th with the snow date of the 16th. It's $16 for lunch and entertainment, and sign-ups start November 1st for Fishkill residents and the 2nd for non-residents. You can just stop by the rec center and pick up a flyer. Jay advised me that from September 14th to the 18th, the rec center had the Be Green consignment sale, which is a huge consignment sale that had toys, clothes, furniture, and approximately 3,500 people attended throughout the 4-day event. September 19th, fall hoops began, approximately 265 participants for upcoming events. Winter hoops registrations begin shortly. The tentative date for the fall festival is October 15th. He has 2 other items on the agenda that I'll talk about later. The Village of Fishkill had no meeting this week. They changed it to next week. The Planning Board, I'll discuss the agenda item later that's on there. And for Human Resources, Suzanne has been very busy. I didn't mention at the last meeting all of the items she's been working on, including hiring our latest account clerk, who I've met and seems to be very nice. She's been actively working on numerous positions that are open, including groundskeeper, court attendant, police assistant, motor equipment operator, and police officers. We hired 2 after-school counselors at the last meeting, and she continues to work at updating all of the county paperwork that goes along with all of the recent raises that the board gave out, as well as numerous administrative items. She's also met with the new historian and welcomed him aboard.
Thank you. Carmine?
Good evening. I'm echoing. A couple things to talk about is our sensory park. The equipment has been ordered and hopefully should be here soon. If anybody's not aware of that, it's equipment that Councilwoman Kenya Gaston and Luis Daniele have been working on last year. I helped Luis try to finalize the order on the equipment, so it's on its way.
Sounds good.
If you notice at Doug Phillips Park also, we milled the whole tennis courts that are there, and that's where the sensory park's going to be. And also, we're going to be working on putting additional fences all around the park there, and also on many other parks that we're going to upgrade. Also put a new Little League fence in over there, and some drainage work. If you look out front of the town hall right here, you'll see that we have 2 signs that shrubs have been cleared around and new Belgian block has been put around. Now you can read the sign where it says Town of Fishkill. Supervisor had the grounds crew, Brian, Brandon, and the rest of the crew, had them take out all the shrubs and put a nice Belgian block curbing around it, so it looks really good. I just want to tell the guys good job with that. Zoning board, there's no meeting, it's, no action in the zoning board.
Talk about the water access at the Doug Phillips Park.
Yeah, so Brandon and Brian and the crews, they used the millings from the tennis court and used the millings for a nice little ramp going down so you can bring your canoe, a little boat down there into the creek. And now you have a little access and a little landing. They did a really good job with that.
Thank you. John?
Okay, so we had a meeting with some of our fire districts with Councilman Rye. I'll let Councilman Rye talk about some of the things we're working on with the fire districts. Helped organize a safety presentation for our seniors. Thank you to Mayor Martin, Supervisor Albra, Chief Dworkin, Lieutenant Wood, and most of all, Eddie Cologne for putting this together. I thought it was a very productive couple hours that we spent with the seniors. Attended the 9/11 ceremonies in the town and the village. Volunteered at ShopRite for a fundraiser to help raise funds for the Fishkill Food Pantry. Attended a meeting at the Blodgett Library. They are looking for people to serve on their Friends of the Blodgett Library group. And we had our comprehensive committee meeting on September 14th.
Hold on. Brian?
Yes, I attended the same event at ShopRite, bagging to stop food hunger, whatever. It was just a good little emphasis. ShopRite does, through the years, has done millions of dollars to help fight food issues and insecurity issues, and I have to commend them for their work. The fire district meeting, we're rolling into, I think, a number of items that the next meeting we will be able to then present specifics to the town board, and there are going to be some issues at the county level and also the state level, but the most important thing is that we did get a list of the web pages, right, Greg? And we're going to be posting those on our web page and our Facebook, and this is a part of why we engage with them, is to help get the information out there from the districts to help with the next generation of volunteers, which is extremely critical. What's the status on that, please?
Well, that is something which is on our to-do list for this week. We're going to be including information on that in our weekly eGov, which goes out on Friday, and they will be posted to our social media page and our town website in the next couple days. A project that I intend to include my successor in, so part of the process of getting him up to speed.
Pay attention, successor. All right, this is important, and I will tell you, I'm going to bring this up right now. We're going to have a discussion in the future about using the rec sign on 52 at appropriate times to help the fire districts when it comes to recruitment and other important announcements. It's a little too exclusive, and I think we can share, but we'll talk about that as a board. I think that'll be important to do. We had a meeting with the Highway Department just recently and getting ready for the budget time, and I think we've got things pretty much leveled out, and we'll talk about that at a later time. Yes, we had a comp plan meeting, and I think it's going to be great. We'll be wrapping that up at the end of the year. And yes, we had a nice little ceremony for 9/11 here, and in the village, was happy to be there as well. Last thing, Vets Committee, we'll be wrapping up that mailing very soon, so we can send that out, and we're going to need to do a banner for them when we have certain events, such as the one that's coming up in December. Thank you.
So what do you want to do with this? You want to use a recruiting for the recreation sign?
Is that a discussion that we're going to have?
Well, at some point I want to,
Yeah.
you know, because it's important. They keep bringing it up, and I think
This
we
is
should
the-
be able to share
Well,
when
It's
it's
the-
time
yeah.
when they're doing recruitment.
But it's the rec center sign that
Yeah.
they use for the rec center,
All right.
so I think we do need to discuss it more, because I think
Yeah.
it should be for the rec
Teach them
center
to put that on the agenda for
information.
the next meeting?
Yeah.
Who is it?
That's it.
Okay. Sir, at the door?
Oh, all right.
You're a new employee?
No. I'm just saying hi to my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay. All right. Just checking.
You know, job well done. Dr. Ishikawa, nice to meet you.
Welcome. All right, next up is presentation, New York State Drinking Water Source Protection Program. Greg, can you give the residents of Fishkill and the town board a little brief synopsis of the great things that we're doing?
Absolutely. Good evening, Supervisor, council members, Madam Clerk, Mr. Gaba. Well, I currently serve as the Secretary to Supervisor Albra, and for more than a year, I've also served as a representative on behalf of the town for a state-run initiative called the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, also known as DWSP2. As the name implies, DWSP2 is a program designed to help municipalities assess their drinking water systems, identify source water areas and potential risks and threats to water quality, and then devise and implement strategies to mitigate risk, protect, and improve the quality of drinking water provided to residents. The town chose to do this because water quality is a concern for any conscientious municipality. The town of Fishkill has more than 3,600 municipal water connections, providing service to more than 11,000 residents. The town has various water quality concerns. Chief among them is high chloride levels in water in our well areas due to road salt. According to our water operators, these high levels could, if not addressed, potentially lead to the future need to purchase expensive equipment that would be very costly to town taxpayers. And the town very wisely chose to do everything in its power to protect our drinking water sources before widespread remedial actions are necessary. Well, as you can imagine, this is a very extensive process. It requires considerable study and engineering review by experts, as well as a number of meetings with stakeholders to ensure that the resulting plan is prepared and most accurately reflects the current condition of town water systems and the best practices needed to meet our goal of a sustainable supply of affordable, high-quality drinking water for the residents of Fishkill. So for the past year, myself, Supervisor Albra, Paul Bozek, one of our town project managers, and our water system operator, Mike Tremper from Camo Pollution Control, have been meeting and working on this program with technical assistance providers supplied by New York State through Barton and LaJudas, namely through Ecologic and H2M architects and engineers. I'm sure that what I've just described to you all sounds very expensive, so here's the first piece of good news. DWSP2 is free for participating municipalities. It means that all of the technical assistance that we've received so far for this program has been at absolutely no cost to Fishkill taxpayers. Based on the scope of the work performed and the man-hours involved by more than a dozen different engineers across a variety of disciplines, the town has received in excess of $140,000 of engineering services entirely free of charge. Here's the second piece of good news. The program is now largely complete. More than a year of meetings, GIS data review, stakeholder discussions, risk analysis, and strategizing have culminated in a completed DWSP2, which has been submitted to the state for their review. We're not expecting much from the state by way of feedback and anticipate that confirmation of their approval of our plan should be submitted to us around the end of the month, meaning that as early as next month, the town board can vote to accept this DWSP2 report and further codify it in our town comprehensive plan. Doing so will bring to completion a lengthy and thorough process designed to protect and improve water quality in the town of Fishkill. This process includes revisions to town code adopted last year, the adoption of an aquifer protection overlay district last fall, and the ongoing comprehensive plan update which council members Foreman and Rye are involved in. By carefully ensuring each of these actions reference and build on the others, we create a strong network of protections which will be very difficult to undo in the future. And by engaging in public information and outreach initiatives, we can also make sure that residents know about the importance of water quality protection and understand best practices for themselves when it comes to water source protection. And here is the final piece of good news. Being a DWSP2 community gives the town of Fishkill an edge in the future when we apply for grant funding. Fewer than 50 municipalities in the state of New York are DWSP2 communities, including less than half a dozen in Dutchess County. If the town board adopts this plan and incorporates its goals into our comprehensive plan as we continue updates to that document, the town can demonstrate that future water system and water quality projects are consistent with the goals outlined in DWSP2. This will result in a higher assessed score by New York State reviewers when they go through the process of reviewing applications for grant funding, and that will put us at the front of the line, so to speak, when it comes to obtaining grant funds for water protection and municipal water projects. Now, I've given you a general summary of the Drinking Water Source Protection Program, why the town has taken part in the program, and the benefits that DWSP2 offers the town. But as for the specifics of the program, I defer to the experts, so please allow me to introduce Lisa Rickmers of H2M and Liz Moran of Ecologic. They are two of the technical assistance providers through New York State. They've been instrumental in completing this program, and they will give you a more detailed summary of the town of Fishkill DWSP2.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies?
Good job, Greg.
Good evening, and
Good
thank you for having us to discuss our DWSP2 plan with you tonight. I'm Liz Moran. I'm the one from Ecologic, and we have a brief presentation. We want to be mindful of your packed agenda, and Greg gave a really great introduction about what the program is and its goals. So let's walk through the program that you have in front of you. This is tonight's agenda, so I'm going to talk about the process for the Drinking Water Source Protection Plan as we developed it. So New York State, as they unrolled this program for participating municipalities, they're calling it a pilot program. And so municipal water providers such as your town, the town of Fishkill, that were awarded this funding, part of the obligation is to report back to the state on what works well and what needs to be tweaked, because towards the end of this year, the state agencies who have collaborated on this framework, which includes DEC, Department of Health, Ag and Markets, Office of General Services, for example, they're going to revise that draft framework based on all of the knowledge that they've gained from the various participating municipalities. So there's a mixture of people with surface water supplies, reservoirs, streams, lakes, as well as groundwater, such as the town of Fishkill. So that's been the feedback. So our role as the technical service providers is to work with various municipalities, guide them through this framework process, and then report back to the state on kind of any issues or challenges that arise. So we're going to talk about that framework, but basically we're going to focus more on what did we learn about your system, and what does that mean? So what did we learn, and then what is that, how are we going to focus efforts on protection? As Greg said, this focus of the DWSP2 is really on preventing further contamination or future contamination of the water supply as conditions change. So, we had a lot of hydrogeologists looking at the aquifer and doing some modeling of how water flows towards the wells and how that's affected by the overlying landscape and land use and such. So we're going to talk about that, kind of what we learned, what we found out, and then basically what are the recommendations. So because this is a planning document that fortunately you're already poised to integrate this into your comprehensive plan, we want to make sure that there's a lot of institutional knowledge to carry this forward. So we have a plan management team and then a brief discussion of next steps for you. So let's see. Okay, so here's an overview of the water supply. Of course, these are drinking water wells. They're in two areas. Let's see if this cursor will work. Yes, okay. So we have what we call the Brinkerhoff wells and the Merritt wells. Yes, thank you. Now you'll see on this map that there are various lines that are important to kind of think about. Some of them are municipal boundaries. So we have the town of Fishkill boundary, and here we have the major transportation corridors. But these lines around the wells are important too. This is based on the kind of the hydrogeologic analysis of how the water moves toward the wells and the time it takes. So these circles, the purple circle is like a time of travel of about 1 year. So water that infiltrates into the ground within this purple area moves toward the water supply wells at that time frame. But then water from this larger orange circle also makes its way into the wells. So you'll see as we go through the actual draft plan that there are some recommendations for potential protective and preventative measures within these areas that reflect the reality of, how vulnerable is the well to land cover, land use decisions and such that are happening within these two areas.
Can I ask you, how did they determine how the water was flowing in these? Were people in the field?
No, these were based on geological mapping that has been done in the past. The data that we got from the water suppliers about the depth of the well, the depth at which the well is screened, how deep below the ground the water actually enters the supply well, and also the nature of the aquifer itself, the porosity, which is, the space between the particles, where's the bedrock, where's the sand, that kind of thing. So it's mostly based on modeling. But the modeling tools that were used are ones that are used by EPA and others as part of the, drinking water assessments. Okay. And that was one issue that as we were working through the framework, we actually had a little bit of a pause in Fishkill because we wanted to make sure that these delineations, which are really critical, were correct. So we went back and worked a little bit more closely with the hydrogeologists from the New York State agencies to make sure that, kind of the assumptions that were used in these models were reasonable. Because, of course, you want your model to predict current conditions. It builds your confidence that it will help you predict future conditions, right? So, good question.
Sounds very thorough.
It was. Okay, so the DWSB2 is not the first stab, obviously, at kind of thinking about the water supply for Fishkill and how to protect its quality into the future. This is a brief timeline that shows that, the town of Fishkill's water supply has been online since the 1930s. In the early part of the 20th century, Department of Health had issued kind of blanket regulations for what happens adjacent to water supply wells, setback requirements, where you can store or dispose of things like chlorides, which we know are an issue. Recreation is not so much an issue for aquifer supplies as it is for surface water supplies, but an annual inspection of, what is happening within the source water area. What are trends in development, land cover, land use, transportation, and reporting back to Department of Health. Then in the early 2000s, the Department of Health and the regional planning agencies went through for municipal water supplies and did what they call SWAP, which stands for Source Water Assessment Programs. And that was kind of okay, let's take a snapshot and think about what are potential sources of contamination for each of our municipal water supplies, which was a really good exercise, but those swap plans were done and they didn't have any provision for being updated or integrated into planning efforts or, you know, zoning and land use decision making. So that changed with the DWSP2, and that's really been the focus of this new generation of planning. And fortunately for Fishkill, it's coming at a perfect time to integrate, as we've been saying, into your comprehensive plan. So the idea is that it's more of a living document. It's not just a snapshot in time. It's something that there'll be some people tasked with making sure that these recommendations are implemented into the future. So we've been talking about the framework. The draft framework has 4 steps and various tasks within those. And as you look at the draft report, you'll see that the reports are organized in this same outline. So first up, you have to bring people together with local knowledge, the stakeholder group, get them to articulate goals and vision for their future water supply, because ultimately that helps guide the decisions and also the metrics or things that we measure over time to see if we're making progress. And then take a deep look at the source assessment itself. So look at the water system, as we said, you know, do the mapping of the aquifer, do the analysis, do the modeling to show the how the water flows subsurface, and also do what we call a potential contaminant source inventory. So kind of similar to what was done in the swap plans in 2003, but look at, okay, what might we worry about, either past spills or current land cover or, you know, transportation, salt storage things. Given what we know about the map of the contributing area, what are potential contaminants that we want future plan management team members to be aware of. There may be some recommendations related to monitoring, assessment, and reporting, checking back with industries, you know, local. It's all, you know, it's tailored to the specific municipality, what the actual actions are, but it all flows from your specific situation and data understanding. So then step 3 is the protection and implementation strategies. That's, okay, knowing what we know, what are we going to do about it? You know, how can we protect this into the future? What are the steps? And then step 4 is the progression and maintenance. How are we going to measure it, monitor it? Who's going to be part of this long-term effort? So the first task was to form the stakeholder group. We had a really good group, as Greg, I think, was on all of our, what did we have, 14 monthly meetings or something over the course of the last year or so. So we had representatives of the town. We also had some local conservation organizations interested in helping us. Dutchess County, the health department, was, of course, very important and key in providing information. And the people who run the water system, you know, all that local knowledge was captured in our stakeholder group. And we worked together to establish a goal and formulate a vision. And Greg, with his excellent skills in actual wordsmithing, I think takes major responsibility for how the vision statement came out, but it has a focus on collaboration, you know, kind of regional agencies and neighboring municipalities, that our vision is that we've done it right, you know, that we have protections in place that are going to ensure that the town continues to be able to provide high-quality drinking water to its current and future residents. So that the goals that flow from that are listed on here as well. As you can see, it's also in your handout. So land cover, public health, public knowledge of where does the water come from and how the activities on the landscape potentially affect that. increasing reliability, and then also keeping an eye on the future about potential contaminants, changes in regulations, things that what we call emerging contaminants. So I'm going to turn this over to Lisa, who's going to talk us through steps 2 and 3 of the framework.
So,
What's your name and where are you from?
my name's Lisa Rickmers. I'm from H2M Architects and Engineers. We're based out of Melville, Long Island. So it's important to just reiterate here that the goal of the plan is to protect the source water into the future by identifying current and future areas of vulnerability. This map it helps us understand the land uses on top of the watershed areas. It's a little tricky to see at a distance. I don't know how your printouts are, but these are maps that are included in the plan itself. But here we can see this is the Merritt Well area, and that very dark red is high-intensity development. The lighter reds are medium, and then the more pinkish is like lower density development. The green spaces are deciduous forests. And then very importantly here in the Merritt Wells, this is Route 84 coming across that area right through, and it's hard to see at a distance, I know, but there's the purple, which indicates the critical area. That's the part of the watershed where the water is expected to move within about a year into the wells. Up here, where the Brinkerhoff wells are, there's a similar line, a little tricky to see, and the critical area is here in purple. And we can also see a wide mix of uses up here. I actually just went to the next slide. That include some high density development, but more medium density development and low density development, as well as forests and water that are part of the land use conditions on top of those watersheds. From there, we were able to also, looking through databases and looking at the land uses, identify a series of potential contaminant sources. These are things that were identified that have already impacted the watershed or have the potential to in the future. The Merritt Wells report, the report for the Merritt Wells identified 39 potential contaminant sources, and 19 of those were closed spills, which is one of the main ways we were able to gather information was from the database on spills. Three were in the critical area, and one of those in the critical area was a closed spill. In addition, the transportation corridors are identified as a potential contaminant source, and those are represented just by the roads themselves rather than a point because they encompass a larger area and can't really just be pinpointed, but you see the road passing through those source water areas. Similarly, we identified 71 potential contaminant sources within the source water area for the Brinkerhoff wells and 9 in the critical area, as well as transportation corridors up in that area as well that pose a risk to the critical and source water areas. So now that the understanding of how the water flows into the watershed and what uses are on top of the watershed and what potential contaminant sources exist, the stakeholder group worked to identify the priority issues for what the plan management team should focus on going forward to protect the source water area. And the first identified priority issue is transportation runoff. As you've heard multiple times already, I believe chloride is a key concern. Salt from de-icing the roads can run into the watershed. Spills also from the highway pose a risk to the watershed. So the goal is to reduce the amount of de-icing materials entering the groundwater, and there's multiple solutions and strategies identified in the report, including things like mapping roadway maintenance, salt management, and operations facilities in the source water area, intermunicipal collaboration around best management practices and monitoring of the source water area and the highways, and promoting the use of non-chloride deicers in the critical area, and best management practice when using chloride deicers. A second goal identified by the plan.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So if, let's just say in a perfect world, there's no more salt spread on the roads anywhere, does this, salt that's in the wells everywhere, I'm assuming it'll eventually flush its way out? And
Well,
and
it'll
those
be-
levels will reduce themselves?
It will be diluted over time as
Over time,
well
yeah.
from more water without the salts
Right.
entering the watershed.
So,
So, yeah, that is,
well, what's the alternative to salt? I don't,
there are a series of non-chloride deicers. It also could be done by identifying proper strategies and trying to limit the use within the critical area, if to the extent possible. Also, things like if there's salt sheds or maintenance facilities that are within the critical area, possibly relocating or checking, and ensuring that monitoring and making sure that they're not, inadvertently contaminating the watershed are solutions. This is the de-icing issue is one that many communities are dealing with. I mean, I would say that every single one of the communities we've done a drinking source water protection plan for this has been somewhere on their list of priorities. So I do expect that there'll be a lot of resources for figuring out the best practices, and each community is going to be different in how to manage that. A second goal that was identified is to reduce risks of existing and future high-intensity land uses. Want to make sure that the stakeholder group identified incorporating source water protection in land use decisions. In terms of existing in high-intensity land uses, some risks of existing residential communities could be the failing septic systems, unregulated commercial and residential development can pose risks to the watershed, and all these risks can be exacerbated by climate change. The increasing instances of drought and severe rain can increase runoff into the watershed and pose more risks. A third identified priority issue is intermunicipal awareness and collaboration. The source water area, which Liz identified in that first map, extends across municipal boundaries and incorporates a state road. So communication and coordination through across these communities is essential to managing impacts in the watershed. And then a fourth priority issue on this slide is source water monitoring to track emerging contaminants. Emerging contaminants, such as PFOAs and PFOs, are things that we expect to be requirements to be coming out in the next several years from either the federal government or the state, and tracking and monitoring the development of those in the watershed so that you can take appropriate action and recognize if there's a threat that maybe needs to be mitigated will help you stay ahead of those. A fifth priority issue was enhanced management of regulated potential contaminant sources in the critical area. This addresses sources that we know exist, large chemical storage and containers, for instance, where regulations exist to protect the watershed, but increased monitoring and compliance may be necessary to deal with existing fuel and chemical bulk storage tanks. And finally, the final priority issue identified, which really weaves throughout all of them, is outreach and education. Personal choices impact water quality. Decisions people make on their own, at their businesses and their homes can impact water quality, and oftentimes residents and business owners are unaware of the impacts they may be having. Programs to educate about septic system maintenance, the potential harm of pesticides and fertilizer, the potential harm they can pose to the water supply. By educating homeowners and business owners, you can empower them to embrace the behaviors that will protect their own watershed. And while it's kind of tacked here at the end, I think ends up being one of a very important one of the priority issues. I'm going to invite Liz back up because with the priority issues defined and implementation timelines that are included in the plan, the next stage is what we're moving into now, which is to define the plan management team.
Thanks. So now you've heard kind of what's the whole framework, what did we find out specifically about Fishkill, and then the issue is, looking ahead. So that is part 4 of the framework, and the first step in the kind of the looking ahead part is the plan management team. So we've had people raise their hands that were part of the stakeholder group to be part of the plan management team. You notice that we have positions here and not people, not names in this chart. And that is this concept of institutional knowledge and making sure that we have good transition as time goes by for the DWSP2, so that as people change jobs or, new people are elected or appointed to key boards, there's some knowledge brought forward about what is in the DWSP2, what are the recommendations, and what does that mean, in terms of setting our priorities. So the responsibilities of the plan management team, in addition to kind of developing an annual work plan to say, okay, let's talk about what we're going to do this year. Here are our priorities, what are our actions, and who's going to do them. Also to prepare an annual report. So the New York State agencies, the Department of Health in particular, are going to be asking for status of the progress with the DWSP2 plans. That'll probably be rolled into the annual water quality report that's already required from the water providers as well, that talk about, contaminant issues and volume used, quality used. So there'll be a section in that on DWSP2. So the plan management team will be helping with that. And also, it's part of the responsibility, similar to the water quality report, is to share that with the community. So that's part of the awareness, education and awareness that Lisa spoke about as being really key, and one of the recommendations that threads through all of the kind of future actions. So what happens next? You've heard that the New York State agencies are reviewing your draft plan. We expect to get their comments back because we've been working with them all along and, revising our submittals based on their comments from other plans. We're anticipating a fairly smooth approval process. Once their final comments have been made and addressed, the state will issue a letter of approval to the town, and at that point, you should consider a legislative resolution to adopt. And then after that's adopted, convene the plan management team and start to think about the strategy. Now, the technical service providers will continue over a 6-month or so period of transition to make sure that all of these data files and maps and modeling outputs and inventories are transferred appropriately to the town, so that it'll be easy to maintain and update. So we're not just leaving you alone, once you get your letter from the state. And then on an ongoing basis, the New York State Department of Health has created 4 staff positions statewide, specifically dedicated to DWSP2. So they'll be there as an ongoing resource to communities as you're developing your annual reports and questions, and kind of thinking through what the priorities are, and keeping an eye on what the funding opportunities are for implementation. So looking ahead, we always end with this slide about adaptive management. You've heard some of the challenges that we know are on the horizon, changes in water quality regulations, either the state or or federal standards for substances like PFOAs and et cetera. Land use and development, you know, there's a lot of movement going on this part of New York, a lot of changes, demographic changes, population changes. So keeping an eye on that and how that affects the protected areas. So that, of course, that'll be incorporated in your comprehensive plan as well. Invasive species, just in terms of how they can affect the landscape. That's probably more critical for surface water supplies, but it also applies to the aquifers as well. And then climate impacts. So we know that all those challenges are out there, and it gives us a sense of why this needs to be a living document. And that was my last slide. So thank you. Do you have any other questions?
Louise, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I believe, I do snow removal for a living. And I think regulating some type of the sodium, we have pretty much 4 types: sodium, magnesium, calcium, potassium, chloride that's put down on walkways, roadways. And I think there's many ways, HOAs, apartment complexes, highways can minimize their salt. And it comes from the county to the state to even local. And just regulation, using less salt. You know, a lot of the de-icing companies are all about pre-treating roads. Sometimes pre-treating roads, if you're having a 12-inch snowstorm, doesn't make sense. It's about managing when you put down the materials, because also, you know, the salt companies and the de-ice companies want you to buy that material. So they always promote a pre-treating. I always tell my customers, pre-treating, when done right, is acceptable, but sometimes it's not. And you gotta know when to use it. Temperatures make a big difference. And late March, if you're putting down any salt, calcium, any of those materials, that's when the plants are now starting to absorb those materials. The salt is being absorbed through the plants. So in late winter is the worst time to put down salt materials. So it starts with not just local municipalities, it starts with the HOAs, homeowner associations, the apartment complexes, and citizens. If they're putting down straight salt all the time, that's not good. Use solutions like magic salt, it's a brine, liquid beet juice, that really helps. It stops the breakdown of the salt slower. So it's about educating the residents and educating the apartment complexes and the HOAs that are in our town.
Exactly. Those are really good examples. And I know that the state is working on some kind of guideline. There's a task force that developed from the Adirondacks, where they're seeing a lot of issues with salt contamination of groundwater, surface water, and vegetation. So expect a lot more movement on that.
Yes, and something that I was talking to the county DPW, they're also looking at ways to now, instead of selling straight rock salt as a state bid, they're going to actually start now trying to promote salt that has been treated with magic, that it's like a brine, so it actually slows down, breaks down slower, so it lasts longer on the roads, so you have to use less product. There's also systems that you could put in your vehicles and the trucks, and companies or even in the town and municipalities can ask you regulate how much salt you put down and can monitor how much salt individuals putting down, so you're not putting too much based on the road temperature.
Is that something that Fishkill has? What are they called? Dickie John something?
Do we have
something?
No.
You don't have them? Yeah. So, yeah, there are opportunities to really work on that. But you're right, you have state, you have local.
And you have the ability to, with the plan management team, kind of hone in on what the priorities are going to be for your town in order to address this. And it may be large initiatives like refitting vehicles with different technology, or it might be smaller educational initiatives to try to make some headway in terms of how HOAs and how salt's being used throughout the community.
With some of the grants, like for instance, I know there's systems that I just mentioned that we can put in each truck. Some of the grants, will they help some of the initiatives? Maybe we can get a grant that would outfit a couple of the trucks with this system, because it's just like the water meter, how we monitor it. It's a system, it's an app where we sit there, it'll be on a computer, you could tell how much salt is being applied on each vehicle and how much it's putting down, if they're bursting it when they're turning, or when they're turning and unloading or tilting. It gives you all the information. It's a very good app. So I wonder, something like that, would that be something that they would, potential grants?
I would think so. I mean, I think, or just as part of your kind of long-term highway department budgeting, to start to move toward that type of technology is another option. You know, as you look for grant support to help, but to kind of, that's why the kind of the long-term planning focus of the protection is so important, because you can, you know, figure out, all right, if we have to upgrade 2 plow trucks a year, you know, here's what the impact is on our annual budget, for example.
And the plan does have in its project profiles towards the end, does give suggestions as to the actual grants and funding sources for different priorities. So, you know, while when you look at the plan itself, there's a little bit more specific guidance in terms of, as you're addressing these issues, which places to look for the funding.
You interested in joining the stakeholders group, Corwin?
Sure.
Thank you for volunteering. John? Brian?
Good.
Any resident has any comments or questions?
The attorney had it raised his hand.
Nobody has anything else to say? Well, I tell you what, I think one lady came from Syracuse and the other, Steve.
Well, yeah, if you'd allow me to.
I apologize, I didn't see your hand go up.
That's quite all right, quite all right. So calling your attention to 4.1, the designate a plan management team.
Yes.
It says the role of the plan management team is to prepare an annual progress report to share with the community and the DECDOH. But it also says it's to be responsible for managing the implementation of the plan. Well, what does that mean?
That means that the plan itself, that the document has a set of priorities and recommended actions. And so the idea is that the plan management team will convene and decide, okay, this is what we want to work on this year, you know, by consensus or whatever, you know, and probably influenced by funding opportunities and regional partnerships and regional initiatives. So just being responsible for saying, okay, we said we were going to do this, you know, how are we going to phase that?
Well,
that's
the
the
plan management
implementation
team
part.
doesn't have authority to do anything, really. I mean, they're not a legislative body. They can't spend
Correct.
money for the town.
That's correct.
So they're going to make suggestions? Is that the idea?
Yes. This plan is not a regulatory document. It does not commit any of the parties or participants to taking a specific action.
You want the town to adopt it by resolution and add it to the comprehensive plan, though. Isn't that what we're doing?
Yes, that's what we're going to
Yes.
do.
I have no problem with them being an advisory board, making suggestions. That's just fine. It's just the board can't delegate its power to another body. The town board can't. So, I mean, as long as we're not saying that, I'm okay with it. I just want to make sure that's not what we're saying. It also says that the plan management team can revise the plan on a regular basis.
That is one of the requirement or suggestions of the agencies working on this, that it just gets updated, you
Well, I don't
know,
mind it being
based on
updated, but the
emerging
town board should be
issues
the
or.
body to I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I apologize. Go ahead.
Well, so the assumption is that you'll need, that that there's going to need to be a local stakeholder group that is carrying the torch of this project, so it doesn't just end up on a shelf. It's true that they don't have legislative authority, but the idea is that they would have the ear of the board, hopefully, and that then if there was a legislative action to be taken, it would still have to follow the proper channels within your town government. So if there is a recommendation for zoning code changes, you know, the plan management team may recommend those be taken up as a priority or that something be looked at, but obviously they can't change the zoning code for the town of Fishkill. And it's meant to keep, and ideally that the way the plan management team is set up is it's intended to have members of the board on it so that it is still connected to the the government of the town of Fishkill, but bring together a broader coalition to really address specifically these water quality issues and to bring them to the proper channels for then taking action.
Okay, so if I understand you, I don't want to put words in your mouth. So if what you're saying is that the plan management team would say, if they find it's appropriate, that we want to revise the plan and we're going to bring it to the town board with our suggested revisions, and the town board would then adopt it.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So
the assumption is that this needs to be a living document for it to be useful. So if there's recommendations in the document that don't matter in 5 years because, that salt shed doesn't exist anymore or whatever the recommendation is, well, it's revised to reflect the new challenges. If suddenly we realize that there's a threat that wasn't identified here, that can be added to the plan.
all right, as long as that's what that means, then that's just fine.
So basically, Steve, what you're saying is if there's going to be a change to it, it's got to be a town board resolution.
Absolutely.
No problem with
You
that.
can't adopt a resolution.
No, I'm good with that.
So if I understand, Mr. Gaba, so it's like we used to have an environmental board. I was part of it in the town of Fishkill, just volunteers, just petered it out. I served on that board for a year. I think, Brian, you were on it for several years, right?
About 4.
4 years, okay. So it's very similar, I see, to this, but this focuses on water quality. So it's a board that's of just volunteers doing recommendation to the town board. Correct?
More like stakeholders. The stakeholders drive this. So you're going to be a stakeholder.
So a stakeholder would be considered a volunteer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's making recommendation on behalf of the town.
Somebody who's connected to the community. The idea from New York State was it wasn't going to come down as every community has to do this, or this. It should be driven by the people in the community to identify what their priorities are and, what their resources are, what the best avenues for protecting their source water is.
Anything else, guys?
I'm good.
Listen, one lady came from Syracuse, the other one from Long Island, right?
Yeah.
Can you take a picture with us? Because I appreciate all the hard work you've done. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Greg, board members, please. These ladies have done a lot of work for the town of
New
Fishkill.
York State will be really happy.
I'm very happy.
You can't expect the public to be written out and include everything. I just want to make sure everybody understands.
Get your new assistant to take it, and then
He does it on purpose.
Oh, you should have seen it.
Hey, Greg.
Get his laptop.
Good?
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for the hard work that you guys have done. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for traveling again.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, you passed the test.
Have a great night.
Okay, our next presentation will be our Fishkill Business Association. Gentlemen. Make me crack out, please. Hello, guys.
Hello. Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Anthony Lepkowski. I'm the president of the Fishkill Association, accompanied by Johnny Kahn, who is our events coordinator. I'll start with our mission statement. So our mission statement through the Fishkill Business Association is to support the vitality of the businesses both in the village and the town. We believe in bringing businesses together in a collaborative manner, only strengthens our community. So, our main objectives through that is through event planning, supporting the community in their events, but housing our own events. We've done that through events this year, such as quarterly networking events, which some of you have attended, so thank you for doing that. And also, we had the Fishkill Car Show back in July, which was heavily attended and went very well. And then we have our upcoming event on October 1st, which is the Fishkill Block Party. So again, hopefully we'll see everybody there. Our main objective here today is to integrate and collaborate with the town. Historically, the Fishkill Business Association has kind of remained steadfast in the village. We do have some representatives from the town, but not as many as we would like. So again, we're looking at a collaborative manner with the town to expand, hopefully with your support in using Parks and Rec, other facilities, as well as gaining support from individuals from the town in strengthening our board. I think that's something that we need to look at doing here in the near future as well. But again, overall, just a collaborative manner between what we do and bringing the village and the town together is something that we're looking to accomplish. We've done a lot this year coming out of COVID to rework the way that we're kind of facilitating the things that we do. One of which is our website. We tried to make it a little bit easier, a little bit more user-friendly in terms of gaining members. Exclusively through that, putting members on things such as auto renewals to help facilitate that year after year. And again, it's going very well so far. And again, our events this year have seemingly been pretty well attended. But again, I think this is a good time to, again, collaborate with the town. We're in a growing metric, and I think that's something that if we were able to, again, work with you and gain your support through, again, in the near future would take off even further. So again, that's our main objective, to speak with you today, to see if there's a collaborative manner in which we can come together.
John? No questions? Brian?
Well, I think it's great that you're here, and I appreciate it, because anything that we can do to strengthen business and the vitality of business in our community is great. Yes, there's two different governing bodies in the village and the town, but there's real no separation in commerce. We're all really in this at one, together in every regard. So I'm really glad to see you here, and I absolutely support you, and I'm sure there'll be a number of things we can do to help promote this. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
John?
What are the dues per year?
Currently, it's $50 for a membership due.
Do you know if the town of Fishkill is a member of the Fishkill Business Association?
As of right now, they are not.
Okay.
Are we allowed to be a member, Mr. Galbo?
Of a business association, I don't believe a municipality can join.
Yes or no?
I do not believe you can.
Okay.
Oh, no?
I don't believe that a municipality can join a business association, no.
Municipality, okay. Carmine?
When can I join?
Go to the website.
Right. So it was very interesting. I have a Wappingers address. My kids go to Beacon City schools. And all these years, I've been a Fishkill business, 20 plus years, and I never joined the Fishkill Business Association because the entity was always Village of Fishkill.
Yes.
That's how we always looked at it. But John, when I saw you at the car show, we discussed this, and I said it'd be a great idea for you to come here and talk to us. And I'm glad you guys came.
Yes,
and it's something that John and I talked about. We went to school since middle school, right, John? So I think it's a great idea. I think it's fantastic, and anything we can do to help promote you guys, I'm all for it. Anything, because being a local business myself, I think it's important.
It's really not promoting this, sorry to interject. It's really just getting a collaboration.
Introduce yourself. Introduce yourself.
I'm Johnny Kahn, I'm the events coordinator. It's really just getting everybody aware, the local businesses in the town of Fishkill as well. They have no idea that there's a business association. So I think putting that on our website, expanding it to your website, letting them know that there is an organization, we can do events, we can get feedback, we can get some participation from the general public as well, residents, local residents, something they'd like to see. Again, it's really for the community, not just, supporting us, it's us as a whole per se, not.
Supervisor, when we were doing budgets, we were talking about doing a town guide. We've got to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to start a town guide similar to what Wappingers does.
Right.
And we want to do something like that to help promote something like the Fishkill Business Association, local businesses, and get them involved. If you recall, not too long ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, we used to have the Southern Dutchess Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
They dissolved that. Well, maybe we can start our own little entity here and make it, really pop and have some representative down here in southern part of the county.
Yeah, because it's really not subjected to the village, in our
Yes.
bylaws it says Fishkill, not the village of Fishkill, so it's, and that it's been stagnant so long in the town, we feel that we'd like to gain, as Anthony was saying, momentum, support, have some members join to really expand this organization.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Louise?
So what is the website for everybody at home to know?
Fishkill Business Association.
What? .org? .com?
.com?
Yeah.
So fishkillbusinessassociation.com.
Correct.
For the people at home.
All right.
So, and what else do you think that we can do to help you network? So you're looking for us to like maybe put it out on an eGov or
Yeah.
say something like that to
If
the
we could
people?
spread it right through the town as well, and then just, utilize some of the facilities we have, like Anthony was saying, for some of the events we want to do, we can get, maybe use the rec center, use some of the, 3 or 4 parks that we have, just to get events. We have a lot of different events we want to put together, but now we're limited because everybody thinks it's the Village of Fishkill, but it's really the Fishkill Association. So we'd like to, be able to utilize some of the spaces that you have, or we have per se.
Okay.
and just
Anything we can
gain-
do. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, listen, can we take a picture of you guys like we did before? And this way we can put it on our ego that you guys came?
Yes.
All right, come on, guys.
Greg's not here. Greg's not here. Greg's not here.
That's why I came to that one gathering. Why doesn't the town have this?
So we talked at length about it.
I know, I wanted to be. I think it's right. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. See you again. Thank you, sir. Good seeing you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Take
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Johnny a bag of donuts.
All right. So we'll go into discussions. The first discussion will be psychological evaluations for police department, and that'll segue into number 2, the testing. We agreed to, anybody that hasn't taken a test is going to take a test. Everybody okay with those 2?
Yep.
Any questions?
No.
All right. So consent? All right. Number 3, discussion of resolution to set the tentative 2023 town board meeting schedule. We made it, John asked for a change, we made it. Any other questions from anybody else?
No, we switched to summer ones as well.
We did what?
We switched to summer meetings as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 4,
What did you say?
we switched, what did we do?
We made the summer meetings 1 per month instead of 2.
Yeah.
Number 4, discussion of resolution modifying the 2022 adopted budget for the HR director. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Next up is discussion of resolution to waive the application fee for the Roundabout Fire Company. They want to build a sign like we have in front of the rec center at the new firehouse, and they asked us to waive the fee for that, the application fee. That's what that's about. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that's just for the application, not for the consultants, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And what, is that the same type of sign that they have,
Yes.
with the LED kind of sign?
Yeah. Next up, a discussion to authorize a grant application for the court. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number 7, discussion of resolution for Dutchess County intermunicipal agreement of snow removal and ice control services. Carmen, can you give us a little update of how this happened?
So we didn't have a, supervisor made a motion to accept the contract, and no one made a second on the motion, so it was defeated, because we felt that the price was too low. We were getting $5,200 per mile to maintain county roads, that are within our surrounding area of our areas that we actually plow. So it makes sense for our municipality to actually plow those areas. I thought it was low. I talked to highway, members thought that was low too. So the county agreed to bring it up to $5,600 a mile. So it gives us a little bit more money, which is more agreeable. And not only did that, we fighting them to go to $5,200 to $5,600 a mile, they did it across the whole county. So us fighting and rejecting that actually set precedent throughout the whole county. So the other municipalities can thank us later.
Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, John, for working on that. And thank you, Brian, for working on it with the highway department.
I just want to say thank you to Carmine too, because if it wasn't for your negotiating skills, I don't think it would have happened. And you're making the town making the county pay the town for what they should. So, it's a
Good job.
great job, yeah.
Very good job.
Number 8, discussion of modification of the rec budget for basketball. Everybody okay?
Yeah, I have just one thing that Jay said.
Sure.
Let's see. Basketball budget amendment. They increased the registration this year, which led to increased expenses in salary, supplies, and referees. We also brought in about $43,000 plus more than our usually planned, so we have the, quote, extra revenue to justify the increase in the expenditure lines.
That's good.
That's what he said.
Everybody okay?
Sure.
Next one, number 9, discussion of levy unpaid water and sewer district charges and fees. So this happens every year. People don't pay their water bills. We got to put this on the town website, and if they don't pay it, it goes on their property tax bill.
Yeah, and that has been posted to the town website. You can access it from the homepage. It's under latest news.
Yes, and lots of people just don't pay it, they just pay it with their tax bill. So, everybody okay with it?
Yep.
Sure.
Number 10, discuss,
Resolution.
yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Discussion. So close it. Next one up is discussion of resolution to authorize grant application, Recreation Department.
I have one more from Jay.
Sure, go on.
So Jay advised me that the workforce grant, Lauren came across another grant offered through the New York State Office of Family and Children's Services. The grant is used specifically for the workforce. 75% of it needs to be applied to workforce at our after-school programs, while the other 25% can be used towards supplies and special vendors. A vast majority of the grant we received at the end of last year is being spent on staff salary and retention bonuses. Our plan is to use all or most of this workforce grant, if awarded to us, towards the salary and retention bonuses. This will free up some of the money from the first grant to continue to offer the program at a reduced rate through the rest of the school year. It also allows us to hire more special vendors, i.e. balloon artists, martial arts, music, theater artists, reptile man, and purchase for upgraded supplies. We do not know how much money we will receive if we get anything, but they're giving it a try. I think it's great because, like I said, I personally know people who have benefited from this, and to be able to continue it and have the people save money is an outstanding job.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
All right, consent? Go on there. The next one up is a discussion of affordable housing for disabled veterans and volunteer firefighters. So I keep thinking, and everybody watching for the last 2.5 years, I'm trying to figure out what to do with this affordable trust money. And one of our things with our stimulus money is that we're going to knock down the old water tower across a land on 9D. And that's going to give us a nice acre of land. Anybody interested in maybe building some affordable apartments for veterans or volunteer firemen?
Mr. Gaba?
Mr. Gaba, he says we can't do that well, we probably can't do it, but what if we build something for some volunteer firemen and rent it to them? Can we do that?
Well, what you'd have to do, I've researched the issue further, and I've contacted the Association of Towns to discuss what it is a municipality can do in terms of housing particular classes of people, such as first responders, volunteer firemen, veterans. And the answer that I've gotten back is that if you want to establish affordable housing, it has to be offered across the board. You can prioritize who gets the affordable housing by the point system, such as you already have in your code, but you can't say we're going to, even if you created the town housing authority, we're going to build housing just for the veterans, just for volunteer firefighters. It just can't be done.
Oh, he's killing me.
Now, they've provided me with a number of citations to materials on what can be done. It may not be exactly what you want, but it may be closer. I'm preparing a memo that I'll submit to the board, and maybe that'll give you some ideas as to how to proceed. But you are not going to be able to, whether you incentivize it through private development or you undertake a housing authority and offer it through the town to provide housing just for veterans or volunteer firemen.
Okay, thank you for continuing to look into that. I appreciate that.
And the dollar amount that we have is
It's over $1 million, maybe 1.1.
Yeah.
That could be 1.2 soon, so.
I mean, but that can be absorbed so fast in building something, right, Carmine? I mean.
Well, if we got 1 acre of land, we take down the water tower, it's relatively flat, and there's water and sewer right next to it. So I'm not saying we build anything elaborate, maybe like, some studio apartments, and every so often we add to it. We probably can get maybe 10, 15 in there.
So, Mr. Supervisor,
I'm
if I may, I think,
just brainstorming.
I like your enthusiasm. I think it's a great idea, but conceptually, us being landlords as a town, it's just not going to work out. I've been the landlord. It's very hard work. People don't pay the rent, turnover, they're not paying. It's a whole thing, who maintains the property, and we have to, there's a whole slew of issues with that. But I think what you're thinking is going in the right direction. But I disagree with us being a landlord.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll wait for Mr. Gallo's memo to see what we can do.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. We have money to do some good things, and we just can't do it. That's what frustrates me.
$1.2 million in there.
Yeah, and we got to spend it on that. Just close it.
Well, if you're going to talk about it again, we shouldn't close it.
Oh, Mr. Gava's going to give us.
It wouldn't be similar to these two
Well,
things,
what
right?
I'd suggest is wait until I give you the memo, and then you can add it on for discussion item again.
Okay, so give it 2 months.
Okay, you got it. Thank you, Mr. Gava. Appreciate it.
All right, next up is the signs, to make the signs bigger. This is just lingering here, we got to do something with this, or move
So
on.
I spoke to Mr. Cantor, who's the chairman of the planning board. He finally got a chance to speak to the people on his board because they've had really busy meetings. And he said they didn't really have strong feelings one way or another about it. They thought it would be difficult to make the lettering bigger. They think it's a good idea, but it's not anything that they're jumping up and down for. So I would just say close it for now.
Close it, Becky? Thank you. Next up is privilege of the floor for agenda items. Anything that was on the agenda, you can speak about the agenda. Anybody want to speak? Nothing? Speak about anything. Anything. My tie, anything.
Say
Nothing?
something? I just want to, since I saw Ann here, we're up to 31
31 what?
as of today.
Explain.
The cat.
Explain.
Oh,
The cat spay neuter program voucher.
so why don't you give a little presentation?
What do you mean?
Go up there and say what's going on.
What? No.
No?
31.
How much more money do we have left?
That was it. That was the presentation.
That was the presentation? That was a good one. And we did, I
All
did.
right.
How many more can we do?
9 more.
9.
Oh, 40 was the total, okay.
We were allowed $4,500 at 25 apiece, and so far I've sold 31 through the end of the year, but I'm hopeful in the budget we passed to do another $500 for 2023, if I remember. So
Hopefully.
people are loving it.
Great.
We got it, and it'll be in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on up, Dan.
Thank you. Yeah, you know, at our, Ann Lagoy, I run Stray Help and advocated obviously for the spay neuter program. So I am happy to hear that it was voted in again for next year. I thought it was actually $1,000, but maybe this is $1,000.
I thought it was, but we haven't
What did we spend this
finalized
year?
our budget stuff.
What did we do this year?
So
It was 500 this year?
Yeah.
Then it's 500
this year
next
it was 500,
Yeah,
right?
we were
And then
supposed to
I
be
think
adding
it was
another
upped
500. We
for
can look into
next
it.
year.
Yeah.
So, you know, this year, the $500 was matched by $500 from an organization over in Orange County. It was more of a professional courtesy to me, really, and a desire for her to expand this program and kind of light a fire under some of the municipalities to get this program going. So, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, now that you have allotted another $1,000, which is amazing, and thank you. The question, of course, comes up, who's going to match that $1,000?
It was 500 that we have in the budget.
I'm talking about for next year.
500 in the
So
next
it's
budget.
$500, not
We're supposed to double it,
1,000.
but we can check.
What did we discuss?
We discussed doubling it, but like I said, we can
Well,
look at it.
regardless of
Yeah,
what the
whatever, we
amount
can look into
is,
it.
you know, what comes to mind for me is, okay, well, now who's going to match that? And, you know, it was actually, the question came up to me that maybe Stray Help would match that. And I did take it to my board, and it was a resounding no, and this is why. We already dedicate thousands of dollars for Fishkill. And in fact, just several weeks ago, we discovered a horrific situation where there was a hoarder that sold their property right here in Fishkill, sold their property, and the new property owner essentially just let these animals outside.
So now we're trying to backtrack, and meanwhile, cats will migrate, and, you know, they need to find food. So we're trying to essentially train these cats to come so we can trap them and spay and neuter them so that we can get this under control. So Stray Help is footing that bill. You know, that's not the town that's footing that bill. So
How many cats were there in that house?
I'm told upwards of 30.
Wow.
So I just discovered actually 2 kittens from one of them. One of the cats that we spayed was newly lactating, so she's got a litter someplace, so we had to return her. You know, I mean, it just exponentially can grow. So these 30 cats can become 100 cats within a year. So that being said, Stray Help volunteers serve this community, and we do not plan on matching, you know, the funds that the town would put in, because we certainly give more money than the town gives. So to match that, I think it would, our board said no.
So who do you have any suggestions of people?
So, yeah, actually, you know, if you want to keep so the town's portion per cat is $12.50. So at the end of the month, let's say, you know, one certificate is, Tara gets paid $50. The town puts in $12.50, and this other organization also puts in $12.50, and then the resident pays $25. So if the town wants to continue to pay $12.50, then you could certainly up the cost of the voucher to the residents to $37.50. That way you're still staying within your benchmark. You know, I don't think that you can do fundraisers per se. So I don't know that that would be, although I have zero doubt that this community, if you were to say, hey, we're going to pitch in $1,000, can the community also pitch in $1,000, you would have that in about 5 minutes. But, you know, so I'm not really sure what the legalities are of who
See Mr. Gaba shaking his head.
Right, so, I mean, we talked about this,
Yeah.
so I understand.
It's a contractual arrangement. The town can't solicit for payment of half its contract. That's the same as soliciting donations. You just can't.
So I think the idea that you had was that $12.50 and expand the other amount to the $37.50.
Yeah, or you can just do the 25. I mean, you know, we're talking about $500. I mean, like I just said, we pay thousands of dollars just for Fishkill every year. And, you know, I've been coming to these meetings a long time, and we have an animal control officer who is a dog catcher. And there's nothing against this individual. This is how the town has it designated and what they have, you know, the outline of what this role is. The situation with cats is years behind. And, you know, I cannot express enough to you the mess, just as an example, of what that hoarder's house would have been if Stray Help volunteers did not happen upon this situation and work our butts off to try and mitigate this situation. So, you know, I mean, I see and agree with a lot of some of your expenditures, but, you know, I would like to see a little bit more support for animals in this town, specifically cats.
And can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
How many other towns are actually helping out? Are they participating in this at all?
You are leading the way.
Okay. How are you making out? Are you actually going to other towns to try to?
On Monday, I'm scheduled to go to Wappingers.
Okay.
We presented to the county, and like I've said before in meetings, I hope they catch up. The program that I have arranged with, you know, that I coordinated with the town is specific to pet parents, some colony caretakers. What I'm hoping the county comes up with is really specifically for the TNR, which you and I have talked about at length. You know, you see
Yes.
a lot of these colonies that we've handled. So those are free-roaming community cats, and that's kind of a different, you know, it's hard to it's not quite apples and oranges, but maybe, grapefruit and oranges.
So what we're doing is we're actually leading,
You're
helping
leading
this
the way.
out, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yep.
And you're a local resident who lives here in the town. You're also a
Yep.
local business. So we're here about promoting that. I don't see no problem in the town continue participating in this and making it worthwhile. We did 31 out of 40 so far.
I know.
I see
I mean,
why not.
that's amazing. That's
We
amazing.
can do another 40 for the same price.
Right. So,
But that's important, so you know that, we feel proud that we are
It's
ahead of this
impressive.
initiative,
It
and
is-
we're here to
it's
support
good.
that.
it's a good thing. It did, I have been kind of thinking about, I don't have access to municipal grants or researching municipal grants. I don't think. I can double check that with Adrian's library. But I do write grants, and I'm in process. I'm in grant deadline, actually. I have 2 of them due at the end of next week. I have another one due in another 2 weeks. But I think that really, to allow this program to thrive, grants are where it's at. I mean, that's really, and there are grants available. The ASPCA, which is a national organization, does offer some grants, not a lot, but some. So there is money out there. There's money out there.
All right, thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next up is consent agenda. I present that as a motion. Can I get a second?
Wait,
Second.
hold on.
What?
Hold on.
You got to be on the ball.
I'm telling you.
You get all catted up and you just
fine,
forget
Greg.
about everything.
So are we, you
All right, I'll do this again. Present the motion for the consent agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Foreman, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is items for special consideration. We got a couple. So I'm gonna rock through these. Resolves are okay? The first one is the resolution to authorize solicitation of bids for the demolition of unsafe house. That's the one on Van Wyck Lake Road. Now therefore be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1, the town board hereby directs the building inspector, zoning administrator to solicit such bids with scope of work for demolition of unsafe building at 448-450 Van Wyck Lake Road, with the cost of such demolition to be levied on the property owner for the unsafe building. Section 2, any other town official, employee, consultant, as directed by the town supervisor, hereby authorized and directed to take any necessary and appropriate actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. Section 3, this resolution should be effective immediately. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Foreman, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one up is resolution to accept the resignation of Police Assistant Daniel Sika. Now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Fishkill does hereby accept the resignation of Police Assistant Daniel Sika effective July 2022, and be it further resolved, the Town Supervisor and/or his designee be and hereby authorized to take any and all legal necessary action to carry out the provisions of this resolution, and be it further resolved, this resolution shall be effective immediately.
We have to add 31 to July.
31?
Yeah, that's a clerical mistake I can correct. I don't.
July
Mr. Gavin, do we
31st?
need to amend that, or
No.
can I just make the correction?
That's
Mr.
fine.
Gavin?
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
He forgot to write 31.
I forgot to write the 31st of July on that
Just
agenda. so it
adopted
just
as
said
amended.
Present that as a motion to have the 31st. Can I get a second?
Adopted as amended.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Carmine did.
Carmine. Further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately. I present that as a motion. Can I get a second?
Wait, what are we up to now?
Can I get a second?
For what?
We amended it, and now we're voting on it.
Second.
Carmine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Discussion of resolution to accept the resignation of Justice Clerk, Josephine Scavarino. So that's a discussion and a resolution. Any discussion? Go right to the resolution. Okay. Now therefore be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1, all whereas paragraphs and incorporation herein by reference as set forth in full. Section 2, the town board hereby accepts the resignation of Justice Court Clerk Josephine Scatarino effective September 22nd, 2022, and extends her its thanks and best wishes. Section 3, the town supervisor and his designee shall be able to take any and all necessary action to carry out the provisions of this resolution. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one up is discussion, the resignation of Gregory Tatino as confidential secretary. You guys okay with just a resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
Now therefore be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1, all whereas paragraphs are incorporated herein by reference as set forth in full. The town board. Section 2, the town board hereby accepts the resignation of Gregory Tatino from the position of confidential secretary to the town supervisor effective September 26, 2022, and further appoints Gregory Tatino to the position of part-time legislative aide effective September 26, 2022, to a schedule not to exceed 10 hours per week and a rate of $27.74 per hour. Section 3, the town supervisor and his designee are authorized to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Louise, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Next one is up, is to appoint the new secretary. You guys okay with the resolution only?
Yes.
Now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill hereby appoints Michael Natrella as supervisor's confidential secretary effective September 26, 2022, and be it further resolved, Mr. Natrella shall serve at this position at the pleasure of the town supervisor, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor has, or his authorized designee, being hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary actions to, and convenient to give full effect to this resolution, and be it further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up is a discussion and resolution to accept the police officer resignation. Section 1, and they're all above whereas paragraphs are incorporated herein. Be referenced as set forth in full. Section 2, the town board accepts the report of the police chief on the personal status of police officer Dane Wakefield and accepts his resignation as police officer Dane Wakefield effective to the close of business on September 29th, 2022. Section 3, the town supervisor or his designee being hereby authorized to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. Section 4, this resolution shall be effective immediately. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's the end of that. New and old business. Louise?
Hold on a second. Okay. Ready? So I have both new and old business. For old business, I received an email from a citizen who wanted to know why I voted no on putting a police officer in the Brinkerhoff School. I had no issue explaining to the person why I voted no, but when I emailed back and gave him my cell phone number to call me, he never did. So to clarify it, the item was not on the agenda for a discussion. It was only on for a resolution. Had it been on for a discussion, I would have had the opportunity to explain that I disagreed with the contract that was created. I did not feel it would be feasible to find a part-time police officer to work 4 hours a day, 5 straight days in a row, as the contract was written. And the chief was also asking to hire a police officer to replace that one that would be assigned to the school. Instead, if we had created our contract to read as the Village of Fishkill PD did, I would have said yes. I heard Police Commissioner Schofield explain to the village board that he had posted a schedule for police officers to volunteer throughout September to rotate being in the school for the 4 hours that the school district requested. This would have given an opportunity for those who didn't work their 20 hours to do so, and there would be no need to ask for a replacement officer. He had the schedule filled up and didn't foresee any issues having police officers sign up to work there. So it wasn't that I didn't want one, it was the way that it was presented to the town that I disagreed with. And if anybody out there has any questions about the way that I vote, feel free to email me, and I will call you back. I will meet with you, or if you don't want to respond back, I'll address it at the next meeting. For new items, we discussed at the last meeting, Councilmember Van and I were in agreement and felt very strongly about removing the 0.4% fee to pay the school taxes, and the supervisor advised me that if I could find the money and it wouldn't raise the tax cap, that I could ask for it to be for a resolution. So I did that. It wasn't for a resolution this meeting, so I'm just asking the board if we can put it for a resolution for the next meeting. And I want to thank Sharon very much, because she did a lot of hard work to look into this and find how we could do this, and also to thank Carmine, because without his support, he felt as strongly as I did that this is something that should be done for the citizens, that they should not have to pay their school taxes. So I'm just asking that be placed on the next meeting for a resolution. We have one more, sorry.
I'm glad you guys brought that up, and I'm glad we're going to do that. So.
Thank you. One last one. I spoke to the planning board chairman, and he asked me if I could create a discussion. So the discussion that he'd like me to bring up for a future meeting is to remove the provision that allows the planning board to approve special use permits to allow a use that isn't listed in the table of uses. So I'm just asking for him that we bring that up as a discussion, and he wants to come here to explain what it is.
What is this announcement? What do you want, what's going to get done? He doesn't want to vote on special permits?
He doesn't think that it should be in his form in the planning board. So it was put in, I think, 5 years ago into the code, so he said he can explain it better when he comes.
I'll second that.
Hold on a second. So who's going to review that?
Oh, I don't know, that's why
We'll
when we
discuss
discuss it, when he will come here, and we'll see what he has to say.
Can a town board review special permits like that?
Happens all the time.
Thank you.
So if you want to have this board determine whether or not an unlisted use is eligible for a special use permit, or it's just not allowed under the code as opposed to the planning board, it's certainly within your purview to do that.
Is it as a right if it's not in there? Maybe we just deny a special permit. See, this is important.
Right, well, the section I believe Louise is referencing is a section that says there's a whole bunch of uses that are listed as permitted by special use
Yes.
permit. The planning board has authority to determine that a proposed use, although not listed, is similar enough to those listed uses that it also qualifies as a permitted special use, specially permitted use. And some towns don't like having this, some of the zoning board make that determination. Some towns don't like having the planning board or the zoning board make the determination as to whether it's close enough under the zoning code. They want the governing board, the town board, to make that determination. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. The reason it's placed with those other boards usually is because they have a little bit more expertise in administering your zoning code and your planning regulations. So they're a little bit more familiar with the terms, but ultimately, this is the governing board. If you want the authority to rest with the town board, you're free to do that.
So he just asked for me to bring it up for discussion.
So
He'll come and explain
I second it,
Yeah.
we can discuss
Discuss
it,
it
and it
with
doesn't
you.
say we agree with it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. How about we have him come in and make a presentation of what he
Yeah,
wants
he
to
has
do?
no problem doing that. He
That's what
said he
he'll
would come. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Greg,
Absolutely.
Create a presentation?
not the second, not October 2nd, because we're going to have the
Yeah.
trooper come in on October 5th.
Yep.
That's going to be a busy meeting,
So
so.
for the 19th?
second, yeah, tell him to come in for a presentation,
Got it.
and tell him to give us like a half a page of what he wants to do.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, and that's it. No more than half a page, and he can come in and speak and let us know what he wants to do.
Okay.
Understood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Thank you.
Did I already do you? You're done?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, next town board meeting is when?
October 5th.
Next board meeting is October 5th. I'm sorry, October 5th, right?
October 5th.
Okay, October 5th. We're going to go into executive session for a legal matter. So I'll make a motion to leave the regular session and go into executive session. I'll present both as a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Carmine, all in favor?
Aye.
And we're not going to discuss anything or vote on anything after this, so see you guys next week.
Greg,
Oh, you have to check the time?
become our legislator. I think you can